What's up, YouTube? Dreamkiller coming at you in the video, and I am joined by my lovely girlfriend, Christina.
Hi.
And welcome to Dreamkiller Reviews, where we talk about the latest movies that comes out. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about with this movie. And as you can see with our shirts, we are here to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. So this is the latest Spider-Man within joint collaboration with Sony and Marvel. And we all thought it was probably going to be the last movie, but it was just announced at the point when the second trailer came out that would be more Spider-Man, so we're all happy with that.
I'm happy.
But boy, does it feel like it's trying to conclude something, but we'll get to that in spoilers.
It's the conclusion of a new beginning.
Yeah, right? But we'll get to that in spoilers. How this is going to go, like we do with every big movie that comes out, there will be a non-spoiler section, and there will be a spoiler section, and there will be a point in the video you will see to get the fuck out if you haven't seen this movie. We will give you a final warning, and yeah, so let's get to the non-spoilers. How do we feel overall about this movie?
Love it. Definitely, right now, my favorite Spider-Man movie.
This is by far the best Spider-Man movie that Sony has very much done. So here's the thing. This is it says Marvel Spider-Man, but this is very much a Sony Spider-Man movie. This is done with their film studio, with the help of Marvel, and allowing the Marvel characters to come into this movie. As you see with the trailer, you see Doctor Strange, and we'll get to him in his involvement in the movie in this non-spoiler section, or in the spoiler section, sorry. Overall, we feel like this is the best Spider-Man that has been put out, and that's saying a lot because everyone will proclaim that Spider-Man 2 was the best that Sony had put out at the time.
I do not proclaim that.
You don't? What did you proclaim was the best Spider-Man?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, to me, that was the perfect introduction to what would it look like if all the Spider-Men met.
That's true.
And I love how it in that movie, it didn't just bring out, just the Spider-Man that we never heard of or random Spider-Man. They did go random, but it wasn't random. They knew who to look for that would contribute to the story. They made the storyline perfect.
Mm-hmm.
They introduced everyone perfectly. The main character, he had his moments. He had his shine. He had his downs. He finally became the hero that we all wanted.
Oh, very much so. And it put Miles Morales, even though it's like Miles Morales already had a very wide popularity within his own comic. It's like through that movie and even through the recent Miles Morales game that we got on PS5, Miles Morales has got a big foothold in the Spider-Verse, very much so.
And it's well deserved.
Yeah.
I learned more about him. I knew there was a Spider-Man like him, but I never dabbled into his character until the Spider-Verse came out. And
yeah, I never got into Miles Morales' comics, so that like the movie and the game were my big introduction to him, and it was good introduction to him.
Yeah, he is a great Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm,
He's his own Spider-Man. He has his own power. He has his own responsibility. Yeah. He was well introduced.
Indeed, but we're getting sidetracked. We're not talking about Spider-Verse. We're talking about No Way Home.
We get
too
into it.
So you agree? So you thought No Way Home. You thought Into the Spider-Verse was their best. I thought Spider-Man 2 was, and I will agree. Into the Spider-Verse was also their best. But you gotta agree, you can't deny that Spider-Man 2 had a big impact.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about
the run with originally Doc Ock in it.
Yes, absolutely. I found Doc Ock incredibly terrifying as a kid when I saw him. His tentacles were very intimidating. That scene with the hospital. Remember that scene?
Yes. Here's the thing that sets Spider-Man 2 apart from all of the future movies and the movie that came before it. Whereas the first movie, the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, was a bit campy at points, whereas Spider-Man 2 went full out seriousness, and it's what drove people to take comic book movies a little more serious because there was a lot of drama. There was a lot of like stakes involved within that movie for people that have not seen that movie, I'm like, it's a 15-year-old movie. I don't know why you haven't seen it at this point. They literally have the trilogy out on DVD and Blu-ray. Go pick it up.
Oh, please. The majority of the people who came to see this movie didn't even watch the older ones.
Yeah.
You saw all the kids that were in there?
Yes, yeah, there was a lot of younglings in that theater that we went to.
That made me happy, though.
It was also we were really happy because here's the thing. We're living in a society now where the pandemic has kind of made movies a little bit hard to go to. People don't trust going to the theaters just yet. This was the first time I ever saw a big packed movie theater in a very long time in the 2 years we've been in this pandemic, and I was so happy to see that.
I was especially happy that people were taking it seriously as well. We had our masks on. Some people had their masks on.
Yeah.
People wanted to keep their distance if there were empty seats.
Yeah, and there was quite a few empty seats to make sure people were fine. But for the most part, it was almost a jam-packed theater, and it was so nice to see. For the 2 years that movie theaters have been doing pretty badly, it was nice to see everyone come together to like see this movie. It really was.
It was.
Yeah, overall, we agreed that this Spider-Man definitely tops a lot of what Sony has done.
I'm proud of the movie. I'm proud of what they did. Sony aside, you know, everyone did a good job. The actors, the music, all of it was beautifully done.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Okay, so let's get into the acting. I feel like this is Tom Holland's best acting he's done for these movies. Because here's the thing. When he started out in Civil War, you know, he's getting his foothold as Spider-Man. And you can notice it with what he doesn't fully know what he's doing. Come with Homecoming, still doesn't quite know his footing as Spider-Man yet, but he's getting there. What was it? Far From Home? It was Far From Home, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Far From Home, he's starting to establish his footholding, and then we get to here, where I feel like Tom Holland knows what he wants out of Spider-Man, and it's great. It's by far his best acting as Spider-Man, Peter Parker, by far.
Yes. He definitely matured, and I loved that his own maturity as an actor was shown in his character. His character definitely, you know, he was still young. Yes, he's still prematurely going into college.
Mm-hmm.
He's still slowly becoming his own man. But I loved how well he handled certain situations, even though a lot of the odds were against him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his character grew up so much. And we saw that through all these movies. And like you said, he was this way from part A to right now. Yeah. He has definitely become a better Peter Parker and a better Spider-Man.
What I'm noticing very much so, and I think they have said this in interviews, that this is what they wanted to intend. They wanted to basically see Peter Parker, Spider-Man from the ground up start, and then like improve or grow up with each movie, because it's like basically he's going from a kid to an adult now. Mm-hmm. And then whatever they decide to do with future Spider-Man movies that they're going to do, we're going to see him as more of an adult Spider-Man now. Whereas here, they're portraying him as the kid Spider-Man. That's what they always intended to be, to show off the kid Spider-Man first, and then further down the line, show off the adult Spider-Man that we know through Andrew and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man from previous films.
Even though they started way older.
Even though, yeah, I was like, man, it's like...
They tried.
Tobey Maguire was pushing his 30s, and I think so was Andrew. Andrew Garfield was like 27 when he first started Amazing Spider-Man.
Damn.
But yeah, they were pretty much, pushing their age limits there. And they were still portraying them as high schoolers. Even though with Tobey Maguire, he was already out of high school and into college.
Yeah, he was like already in his senior year.
Yeah, he was already there with the first movie.
How was Andrew Garfield in the second movie, he was finally graduating. The first movie, he was still in high school.
And first movie he was still in high school. Then second movie he had just graduated.
Yeah.
And of course, we got Benedict Cumberbatch coming back as Doctor Strange, and I think this is also his best performance as Doctor Strange.
You think so?
I think so, because here's the thing: we start off with Doctor Strange in the first movie. He's cocky, and then he loses everything, and he's bitter and all this stuff, and then he's establishing himself as the Sorcerer Supreme, blah, 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 blah. Then we don't get much character development from him in Infinity War and Endgame, where he's at. And so it's like we didn't get much to, like, push him as a character besides squabbling with Iron Man and Infinity War.
I disagree. I think they showed a lot of it, not a lot, but they showed a good majority of his character growth in Infinity War, and same with a lot of the other characters. Because yes, I understand it's a big ass movie, and they had to give everyone their appropriate amount of story time.
Yeah.
But I believe in his small moments of his own storyline, I think he did grow a little bit. He showed that, at first it was the stone that was his main priority. Everyone else is just a liability.
Yeah.
But he soon realized this is something we're fighting for. These people are worth something fighting for, stone or no stone. And to the point where he tried his best to find as many solutions as possible.
Okay.
Even though he knew that one solution was going to be the most devastating, he knew in the long run it was for the best to save everyone.
Okay, yeah, I can sort of agree with that.
Yeah.
But I still feel like this is his best performance as Doctor Strange, at least until we get into Multiverse of Madness, which, we got to discuss stuff about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, so far, I liked him performing here because he's a little bit more confident in himself in his performance with Doctor Strange, even though it's like, for the most part, we don't get much of him in this movie either. We got a decent amount, more so than we got in Infinity War and Endgame, but I felt like it was great.
Yeah.
And of course, we got Zendaya coming back as MJ. We got I don't know who the actor's name that plays Ned, but we got that guy. They're I feel like the Zendaya improved the most out of those two. Ned is Ned. He's the comedic relief of the movie.
No, but he's more than that.
He is. I mean, we got some stuff to talk about him in spoilers as well. But I feel like Zendaya improved as a character because it's like she started off as, how would you describe her character in the first movie?
Well, in the first movie, remember, we knew she was going to be the love interest somehow, but we just didn't know who she was and why she was so important to us and why they gave her so much, as a side character, so much screen time.
Yeah.
Because I notice when you give a certain character in a story a lot of screen time, even though you're playing it off as if they're not going to be important to us that long, I feel like she was going to be very important because that's what happens to these certain side characters. They want you to think they're not going to be that important until they start dropping breadcrumbs, and that's what they did. In the first movie, they revealed her nickname, or her initials are MJ.
Yeah, which, people groaned at it. I groaned at it originally. But
I
it's like,
accepted
but here's the thing. Once it came to Far From Home, that's when I did accept it because she made her own thing with it.
Yeah, and we established she's not Mary Jane. She goes by a different name because, again, this is a different universe.
Yeah, even though she still goes with the last name Watson.
Yeah, but at the end, my point is, she definitely has grown from side character to the main. How would you call them? Main side characters?
Main side characters, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like it's like where she started off with like having a lot of trust issues and also being a little awkward at times. She kind of grows out of her trust issues when she gets together with Spider-Man Peter Parker towards the second movie, and we see that grow further on in this movie.
Yeah, you could tell she wanted to be their friends. She was the only one. They were the only one she would talk to in the first movie. So you could tell there was like some interest there, and they were going to do something with those three somehow.
Yep.
And it shows, and they did a great job with that growth. We learned to love all three of them together. We see their connection is very strong, not just as characters, but as actors. They know how to play off each other.
Yeah. Of course, this isn't really a spoiler because they were revealed in the trailers. We got Alfred Molina coming back as Doc Ock. We got Willem Dafoe coming back as the Green Goblin. We have Jamie Foxx coming back as the Shocker. And yeah, again, was not a big spoiler because they were revealed in the trailer. And we can just talk about a little bit about how their performance was, and then we'll get to our reasons why their performances were so good in the spoilers section. And we can both agree that this was way better than how they were originally portrayed, to a certain extent.
And I wouldn't say for all of them either.
Not all of them. I haven't talked about the fact that about certain other villains on there, but we will also get to that, even though they were also in the trailer too. But I want to discuss more about those ones I haven't mentioned in the spoiler section. I felt Alfred Molina brought the same energy he brought when he originally played Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, and it's still the same for me. Willem Dafoe, I felt like his character development as the Green Goblin was so much more better. Again, we will discuss it in spoiler section, but we both agreed that he had the best improvement of his character by far.
I wouldn't call it an improvement. I call it a ignitement.
Mm-hmm.
Or not ignitement, ignition?
We'll just go with that.
his overall character ignited into a much stronger, darker flame.
Yeah.
Darker flame, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know, I get it.
Yeah.
Again, we'll discuss why in spoilers.
Yeah.
But super big improvement. Jamie Foxx as the Shocker. Or not Shocker, Electro.
That's why I was so confused. I'm like,
sorry,
why are you calling him Shocker?
Sorry.
He's Electro.
Electro, sorry. Don't bash me in the comment section.
Come here.
But yeah, Jamie Foxx as Electro was the biggest fucking improvement of this freaking movie. And it's not just because he's not blue anymore.
But we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, but we can both agree he's the biggest improvement of his character.
Very improved.
Of this entire fucking movie.
They gave him better screen time.
Definitely.
And I will say, I'm not going to say more or less, they gave him a better screen time. They gave him...
Not just that, they wrote him better.
They did write him better, they did.
They definitely wrote him better. It's like no disservice to Mark Webb as a director. I know it wasn't completely his fault how the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movies came out. It was a lot of interference from Sony. But God, that writing in the Amazing Spider-Man was so, especially in 2, was fucking dreadful. The less we talk about it, the better.
Yeah.
That's how we feel towards the acting, the overall thoughts. So let's go into the final verdict. What would you rate this movie out of 5?
Ooh, 5.
Yeah, 5?
Damn it.
I agree. It's a 5.
It's a 5.
This is a perfect movie. It's got a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's the highest Marvel movie rating I've ever fucking seen. I don't even think Endgame was perfect. Yeah, I think it got like 90... like 92 or something. I'll put it on the screen what the Rotten Tomato score was for Endgame. This is the highest, highest Spider-Man rating, Spider-Man movie rating, the highest Sony Spider-Man rating that it's ever gotten, the highest Marvel movie that the MCU has ever gotten, and it deserves it. It's definitely a 5 out of 5 for both of us.
They put so much work into this
movie. They
put
a lot of time and energy in this movie. Even with a pandemic happening, like they pushed to make sure that this movie got a satisfying reaction out of everyone, and you can tell.
Yeah. It's well shown, well done. I don't need to repeat myself.
Yeah, congrats to Sony, congrats to Marvel. You did one hell of a job. And everyone involved in it, like, good job. That's the non-spoiler section. If you're sticking around for the spoiler section, just stick around. But for those that are not joining, we thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all in the next review. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, we're in the spoiler section. You have been warned. You had a screen telling you to not see this if you have not seen the movie. There's so much to fucking talk about. Bro. So let's start with the fact that this movie starts off where Far From Home left off.
Yes.
Where basically, we have the video, of Mysterio before he dies, tricking everyone into thinking that Spider-Man killed him with the drones from the last movie. Yes. And also the big drop that he reveals who Spider-Man is. And people don't take it well.
Well, yeah, it's divided. You have... Because, unfortunately, Mysterio made it out to seem like Spider-Man killed him. And Spider-Man went baddie. And, of course, it's going to be torn. You got people who are loyal to Spider-Man. You got people who were,
people that believed
in Mysterio.
And believed in J. Jonah Jameson and his thing. By the way, J. Jonah Jameson, what's his name? J.K. Simmons, back as J. Jonah Jameson is the best fucking thing here.
The first time I saw that in the last movie,
it was a total what the fuck moment.
Everyone got so excited because we knew this might mean a multiverse collision.
Yeah, and he's actually more of an asshole in this movie than he ever was in the Tobey Maguire movies.
He reminded me of that one fucker who used to be on TV a lot, who yelled at people over and over. And
are we talking about There's certain.
He had his own TV show back in the early years.
I feel like they were going for who was it? I felt like they were kind of making Jameson like an Alex Jones type character. For anyone who doesn't know who Alex Jones is, oh god, look him up on YouTube. It's the most hilarious thing you
Just
ever
look
see.
up gay frogs, you'll find it.
Or just look up Alex Jones. Just look up Alex Jones. There's a big compilation of him saying just the weird stuff. He's a big conspiracy theorist and all that, making like big allegations that are true. And I feel like that's what I don't really think they're going for is conspiracy theories with JJ. But I feel like they're going for, he's making these big allegations that are true. And it's just, like his character in the comics, he's out to, like, make Spider-Man's name just the worst, try to tarnish
just overall,
him.
Overall tarnish.
Yeah, but I feel like with this movie, it's, like, times 10.
Yeah.
He has his own podcast, which, like,
he has his own newsroom.
He has his own newsroom, which compared to him owning a newspaper company, it's way. I mean, it makes sense because newspapers are kind of dead.
Not really. People still take gay newspapers nowadays. You'd be surprised.
But yeah, so yeah, it starts off where Far From Home left off, and then immediately the feds are after Peter and his entire family and friends. And then, he starts to lawyer up, and that's when we get our first little surprise.
Dude! I forgot about this.
So, it was rumored. Kevin Feige said he's got to be in the MCU one way or another, even though he wouldn't say. But now we know why. Charlie Cox's Daredevil is in this. Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock was in this movie representing Spider-Man, giving him his options as a lawyer, and boy, did this get a reaction at people, because it's like...
The whole theater went...
The whole theater went wild, because this was a rumor that came about. We didn't really think it was going to happen, because there was so many, like, legal stuff happening with the Marvel TV shows on Netflix, and it's just overall a genuine surprise, especially with considering the fact the other big elephant in the room that was the worst kept secret ever, and we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll
get there.
We'll get there. Don't worry.
Even though I think everyone knows at this point.
We'll get there. I especially loved it because I feel like this is weirdly where they did their homework, because it's true. Matt Murdock did defend Spider-Man at some point.
In the comics,
the comics. They work together. They know each other.
It's a good little reference.
Yeah.
I definitely, and we got like a little taste of his power when someone throws a rock at Peter's apartment with an MA, and then he just automatically catches it, and everyone's like, how the fuck did you do that?
He a lawyer.
He's a good lawyer. Yeah, so we get a little taste of his, Daredevil powers. I would really looking forward to see what they're gonna do with Charlie Cox now that he is officially in the MCU as Daredevil.
This tells me they're gonna give him his own spin-off movies now.
If movie, yeah, maybe. If not a movie, maybe a TV show, something. But we know that Charlie Cox's Daredevil is officially in the MCU now.
Yes, well deserved too. It honestly overdue, because Daredevil was one of the granddaddies before MCU was even an idea. All we knew was Marvel. That was it. And he like Fantastic Four and all those other ones, he was one of the granddaddies, and it was way overdue in my opinion for him.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about Ben Affleck's Daredevil. It's like Daredevil, like the movies, and they were those movies that paved the way for what the MCU is now. So again,
I still love it. I don't care
say
what says.
It's a guilty pleasure. Ben Affleck's Daredevil is still a guilty pleasure of mine.
I'm not guilty about anything. I love it.
Okay, so we get to that, and then we are finally sent off Peter to Doctor Strange to try to basically reverse all of this, because his friends are trying to get into MIT. They get denied because of them knowing who Peter is, and it's controversial to them. So he does jump the gun and just goes to Doctor Strange saying, hey, can you come up with a spell to make everyone forget I'm Spider-Man? Because I really want to go back to a normal life. And he agrees. And this is the interesting thing with this scene, how it was originally portrayed in the trailer as it was portrayed in the actual movie.
You won't let this go.
I'm not letting this go, because it's a case of what Marvel usually does, where they put stuff in a trailer to give you a false sense of what the movie's going to be, and then it flips around when you actually see the full release. So in the trailer, originally, when Peter is asking Strange to do his spell, he agrees, but Wong tells him not to do it, and just don't do it, and he leaves, and that's it. in this movie, he says, Doctor Strange, go ahead and do it, but don't get me involved.
No,
in
he
this.
didn't tell him to do it. All he said was, just don't get me involved. That was it. He didn't tell him yes or no. He just said,
No,
don't
he
get
said
me involved.
he said fine, but don't get me involved.
All right.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's definitely different because we all thought it was just because Wong. And another thing we learned too is Wong is now the Sorcerer Supreme because when Doctor Strange got
By
hit
default.
yeah, by default, because when Doctor Strange got hit with the snap and he disappeared, he could no longer hold that title because he was gone for 5 years, and so it went to Wong.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Wong kind of has more power over Doctor Strange, and so, it makes you think that, he has control over what Doctor Strange can and can't do, and that's what the trailers present, but that's not the case here. He says, just do it, but just don't get me involved.
Yeah.
Because he has a reputation to keep. And so, like the trailer, the spell happens, Peter fucks it up for Doctor Strange, and then, boom. We have all the Spider-Man villains from movies past come by, and we're first treated to a scene where Peter's trying to get with the people at MIT to, convince them to, accept him and his friends, and then...
Well, first his friends. He just wanted his friends.
He just wanted his friends, him being in was just a bonus after he saves the woman from a returning Dr. Ock.
Oh my god. We all knew it was coming.
We knew it was coming, but it was an epic moment.
He still looks good.
He still looks good. I think they somewhat de-aged him for this movie. Somewhat, not entirely. And of course, the tentacles are all CGI now, whereas in the previous movie, it was a mixture of puppeteering and CGI. Whereas this, it's full CGI, and I think
it still looks good though. Honestly,
it still looks good. I was genuinely surprised because when they go full CGI, I don't expect it to go as well as when it's practical. But apparently, it looked really good, and apparently, when Alfred Molina was in the rig, he had a lot more fun with it, and he was able to move more as opposed when he was carrying around puppets behind his back.
Yeah. And I love that he still kept his same character. He was still his somewhat crazy, somewhat power mad, full on. All the tentacles were doing a lot of the work. The scene I love the most between their fight was when Spider-Man pulled out his own freaking 8 legs. And that scene was just amazing. I was trying to figure out who's hitting where.
I know, they're hitting each other, and it was so trippy to see that. And even Doc Ock, he's like, "We got competition." It's just yeah, it was a crazy fight. It was definitely I liked them fighting more than I liked the fighting that they did in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, they did a great
mostly
job
because
with
the
fights.
stunt work in this movie was way better than what they had to offer back then.
And a plus side to CGI, it helps. The
CGI does help a little bit.
Makes the fighting look more convincing, and it did make it look really good.
Yeah. So he comes in originally, and then Spider-Man stops him, not without taking a hit from his spider armor, the Iron Spider armor. The armor gets mixed in with Doc Ock's tentacles, and then for a brief moment, Spider-Man's able to control because of the nano technology.
Yeah.
He's able to control the thing. So he restrains Ock, saves the MIT person, and we get a brief glimpse of Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin for 2 seconds before we get yanked off back into the Sanctum Sanctorum with Strange. And he basically says that the spell that they fucked up brings everyone from all their universes in here, and now he tasks Spider-Man with just unfucking what he fucked up.
And before doing all this, he had to go and grab Lizard Man.
Yeah, Strange grabbed the lizard, and it's this is talking about villains that I didn't mention in the non-spoiler section. They got the original actor.
Yeah.
For Lizard. I was honestly...
Did you really doubt that?
Because they did not mention them in interviews. They didn't even approach them for interviews, and that made me believe that they just got fill-in actors to play these roles.
Nah, to me that was them trying not to spoil too much, and honestly, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I feel like nowadays with trailers, these interviews, these stupid leaks, people are losing the element of surprise nowadays, and I don't like it. I honestly don't like how the trailers are showing too much. These interviews they're talking about too much. I still appreciate that sense of surprise when going into these movies.
Yeah. So,
And,
yeah, I agree. So, yeah, we have the lizard involved. And, yeah, so Spider-Man's tasked with getting the other people that escaped. And so we're in this foresty area where we get introduced to Jamie Foxx as Electro, a different Electro. And we can finally, like, say why we think that this is the most improved of all the characters came in. Because it's like Jamie Foxx just had more to work with here than he had in the previous movie. Because it's like, do I even want to mention the stuff from the original movie? Is this?
We all know the original.
He's blue.
I honestly didn't have a problem with the way he
I didn't
looked.
either, but it goes deeper than that. It's just, they wrote his character in Amazing Spider-Man 2 as basically almost a Riddler situation with Batman Forever.
How so?
Because you know how Edward Nygma in that movie had an obsession with Batman. He idolized Batman, and then when he turns a villain, he takes that obsession and turns into wanting to kill him. That is everyone can agree. Most people that talk about that movie saying that was the same shit that they were going for with Electro. He was obsessed with Spider-Man to the point where he became a villain. He wanted to kill him.
Honestly, I didn't see any problem with that.
And of course, they still keep the same thing in this movie that they did, where Max just wants to feel like he's important, he
wants to be acknowledged.
He wants to be acknowledged, and they keep that in this movie, which I didn't have a problem with. It makes sense.
I like that they didn't change him too much as far as his character and his personality. He still has that wanting of wanting to be seen and known.
Even though they did get rid of his, obsession with Spider-Man thing and replacement, because he's more confident as a character in this movie. And again, that's more the fact that Jamie Foxx is able to work more with his character in this movie than he ever did in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
And Jamie, honestly, even after the last movie with Jamie Foxx, I did not lose any respect. I did not think of less of him as an actor. He did what he could, and he's a flexible actor. What he does is brilliant. He tries his best to put in his own flavor of things, mixed in with whatever the director tells him, and he is a genius. He really is. I believe that, and I think he still is.
Most definitely. And then, of course, along with Electro comes Sandman, who, again, another actor, Hayden Christian Church.
How did you not hear his voice when he was talking?
Here's the thing. When I originally heard him talking, it almost didn't sound like him.
Huh.
And it's they kept him in his sand form most of the movie until they cured. Well, we'll get to that. Until it's revealed that it's actually him. Yeah, I thought it was strange that they kept him in his sand form. It made me think that they couldn't bring back Hayden Christian Church for Sandman, and they just got a fill-in and a guy that sort of sounds like him. But my theory of that was totally false by the end of the movie.
I knew it was him the moment I heard him. Like, yeah, that's him. The mannerisms, his facial,
I was happy.
Face.
I was happy they managed to bring him back because I honestly would think he would have said no to doing it.
I know, man. I feel like all the villains are like, yeah, give us another shot. We want.
I'm happy the actors agreed to do this just so they can get a better shot of being written in.
Or probably not even a better shot. For all we know, they just wanted to come back because it was fun.
Yeah, and speaking of things, so afterwards, with Electro and Sandman are dealt with, then steps in Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, played by Willem Dafoe. And this, again, is also... Here's the thing. Willem Dafoe was great in the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. But I feel like he was able to be way more sinister, a lot more evil in this movie.
Well, they did show some of it in the following movies, too, because remember, they were showing, bits of him when Harry was going through his turmoil. Yeah. And they were showing, just what kind of father he was to him.
Yeah.
Or how cynical he is, wanting his son to just, be as evil as him. He doesn't care that how good his son is, how much potential he has. He just wants to be avenged.
But I feel like, especially considering from an acting standpoint, I feel like Willem Dafoe could not be how he could be, especially when you see him in this movie, because again, the first Spider-Man movie was pretty campy at times, And I feel like now that the campiness is gone, it's a more serious take on Green Goblin. He's allowed to be more sinister this time around, especially when we get to a certain point. So, moving on from that.
I want to say, though, I disagree a little bit
Go ahead.
on what you say about Green Lantern.
Green Lantern.
Green Goblin. Different universes. I think they did a great job introducing him in the Spider-Man movie.
I don't disagree.
No, I know you don't disagree, but what you said, you think he wasn't able to show off so much. I think what he showed off in the first movie was perfect, and it was enough because we have to realize that first Spider-Man movie was our first intro of the whole universe. It introduced to all the main villains, our main Spider-Man, the main side characters, all of it. And I feel like what they showed in that first movie was enough. It was perfect. It was not. He did not downplay him. I don't think he was downplayed. I don't think he was over the top. He made me scared as a kid. He definitely gave me that false sense of because I didn't know anything about Spider-Man until I saw that movie for the first time.
That's true.
And when I saw him go from this scientist, father, businessman, sort of an asshole, into this very demented, multi-personality psychopath, I'm like, fuck, this guy's creepy and he's scary. And I'm like, okay, that was perfect. That was good. This movie definitely,
I feel
definitely heightened him up. I agree.
Willem Dafoe was able to expand upon what he originally wanted to do.
But how do we know that's what he originally wanted to do in the last movie, though? What if?
I guess we'll never know.
It was an introduction.
I mean, because especially when you hear him in interviews, that he was able to open up a little bit more with his character this time around. He admitted that he's able to extend what he provided within the first Spider-Man movie. So yeah, that's why I feel like it's more of an extension of what he was trying to get out in the original movie. So moving on from that, so all the villains are captured, and basically we have a conflict of interest where, Tom Holland's Spider-Man learns that in their retrospective universes, that once they go back to their timelines, they're going to die.
Yeah, or they're going to kill them eventually.
They're going to kill him eventually. Whereas Doctor Strange just wants to just end this all, send them back to their universes to prevent any further tearing of the multiverse. Leave them to their fate. Tom Holland feels morally obligated to try to fix them in order to make sure that their fate can be changed, and that's where the conflict of interest happens. Where we had the big fight between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, which is it makes more sense when you actually watch the movie, because in the trailers it was confusing because I was like, why are they fighting? We get an explanation why they're fighting, because it's a conflict of interest of what they want for the sake of making sure everything goes back to normal.
And he tries. Peter tries to save them. He tries to induce a little bit of trust and faith in them and whatever left they have in their hearts.
Yeah.
And even I was a little convinced, okay, maybe Norman is trying really hard to fight back, and I know eventually his Green Goblin side might fight back also. We just didn't know when.
Yeah.
But I loved that dynamic of, okay, let's see if they can be redeemed. And it almost worked out.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Let's get to that scene first. So then once Spider-Man wins the fight with Strange, he traps him in his mirror world and tries to go with his plan of trying to cure them and then send them back so they can have their fates change. And again, you say it almost works. They go back to Happy's place where where he has a replicator to replicate stuff for Spider-Man to cure them. He cures Doc Ock by removing the chip that corrupted his tentacles.
He didn't remove him. He didn't remove the chip. What he did was...
He swapped it out, basically.
No, the chip was still there. What he did was just implant the new one.
Right. And it cures him. He can no longer hear the voices from the tentacles. He's basically back to normal. And
he has control of the tentacles.
He has control of the tentacles, and he finally, agrees with Peter that this can work. And so it almost works. They're going to move on with trying to cure Electro. And then Tom Holland Spider-Man senses that Norman's not the Norman that he got to know. He turns back into the Green Goblin and fucks everything up.
Yeah.
And then we get Electro, siding with him because Green Goblin is like, our powers are not a curse. We should not be cured. And, Electro ultimately agrees. And then all the chaos ensues. Like, Electro goes after Ock. And then we had the big fight with Norman and Peter.
Yeah.
Then we get to the big depressing part of the movie where towards the end of the fight,
we lose Aunt May.
We lose Aunt May. This is like the second time I have to see Aunt May die. For people that played the Spider-Man game, y'all know what I'm talking about. That was hard to watch. Like, it's just like, and here's the thing, is like, I like Marissa Tomei as May. She wasn't my favorite May, but I got no, because it's like I barely got to know her through these two movies, and everyone complained that she's too young, blah 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 blah. But over time she grew on me to where I liked her, and definitely I teared up seeing her die like that.
Off the bat, I liked her because I knew, again, with different Spider-Man, there's gonna be different Aunt Mays, and I've seen different versions of Aunt May. I've seen younger ones, not too young, and I didn't even think this one was that young either. I mean, yeah, she was younger than the other ones, but she was definitely in her prime of age, probably in her mid-40s.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved her. I loved her spunk. I loved her attitude. I loved her overall, also her morals.
Yeah.
Because she was the one who convinced Peter to give these men a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And even towards the end of her life, she still told him, what you did was right.
Yeah, and then we got the big, again, with great power comes great responsibility coming from her instead of Uncle Ben, which,
Well, what Uncle Ben?
I was gonna say, there's not even an Uncle Ben in this universe. Like, holy fucking shit.
Did we know that there was
No,
an Uncle Ben?
they had established in Civil War that he had died.
No, but that's what I'm saying. There was an Uncle Ben.
There was. It's just they didn't want to go in that whole thing for like a third time.
But I loved it. I loved overall that she was pretty much there the entire time for him. She was pretty much not just May, but Uncle Ben for Peter.
Yeah, it was definitely sad to see her go.
Yeah.
So with that, Tom Holland Spider-Man is in turmoil. He's in the biggest depression that he's ever been. Everything's up against him.
Pretty much the hero's fall.
Yeah, basically the hero's fall. And so then we get cut to MJ and Ned's place, and they realize what's going on, and they're trying. So Ned has the sling ring, and he's able to use it, and he's trying to get Peter to come to them.
For those who don't remember, the sling ring is the ring Doctor Strange wore in order to summon his portals.
Yeah, it's how he's able to teleport everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, Ned uses it. They thought they get to hit Spider-Man, but then we get the biggest, worst-kept secret ever.
Not a secret.
Yeah, I mean,
they
like to make you think it was.
No, deep down in your heart, this was not a secret.
I mean, Lord knows I tried.
They didn't try shit.
They tried a little bit.
No, I think they deliberately were making us believe that there was not going to be any other Spider-Man, that there wasn't going to be any.
Okay, let me get the introductions first.
Babe, it's not a secret. They know.
First, we get introduced to Andrew Garfield as his Spider-Man.
Yep.
And then when they try to do it again, then we get Tobey Maguire. Again, you disagree, but it's the worst kept secret because God, no one would shut the fuck up about this. They would not. Everyone kept badgering Tobey Maguire, badgering Andrew Garfield. Everyone was doing conspiracy theories about the trailers when they see certain parts of the scenes in the trailers. Finally, it happened.
I fucking knew.
We got Andrew and Tobey. You're welcome, guys.
The moment I saw Andrew, I don't know why I was excited for Andrew. I didn't like Andrew that much.
I mean, I like Andrew.
I have more of a soft spot for Tobey Maguire because that's the Spider-Man I grew up with.
Definitely. When Andrew came in, you get everyone, cheering.
I got excited.
Everyone got excited, but God, once Tobey Maguire stepped in, it was a round of applause for him.
I could not breathe for a good solid 10 minutes. I couldn't breathe properly for 10 minutes.
She really couldn't.
I was so excited to see him together. And at this point, once Ned and MJ finally realize, okay, we got these different Spider-Man, and they know what's happening.
Mhm.
Both of them understand. Okay, our bad guys are gone.
They're trying to find.
They're trying to find their bad guys.
Well, not just that. They're also trying to find Tom Holland's Peter Parker because they know what's going on. And so we get the big scene where they meet. They're trying to remotivate Tom Holland's Spider-Man because he's down on his luck, and it works. And so they come together, butt heads, to figure out, to come up with ways to actually perfect.
Well, they didn't butt heads.
Well, you know what I mean. They come up, put their heads together.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry. They put their heads together to come up with better solutions to what Tom Holland was originally trying to do to cure the villains. And then we ultimately get the big climax on the Statue of Liberty, which some reason has Captain America's shield. Like, goddamn, that's just...
Cause America.
But yeah, we have the big conflict of, Electro, Sandman, the Lizard, and then towards the end, Green Goblin. One by one, they get cured. First, it's Sandman. We get the reveal of, it actually is Hayden Christensen Church playing him, which I was happy. And then they cure the Lizard, which, again, original actor. I don't know his name. I'll put it up on the screen. His name is hard to pronounce.
That's okay.
But he's there, and I'm happy. And then Electro gets cured as well. And then we had the big confrontation between Tom Holland and Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and Green Goblin, where he almost wants to kill him because he's very vengeful right now for
anyone who didn't realize, he's the reason why Aunt May died.
Yeah, and Tom Holland Spider-Man is very vengeful at this point. But then, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man stops him, and we almost thought he was gonna die because fucking Green Goblin stabs him
right in the back.
But apparently, that's just, he's used to that by now, and he heals up pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
did he heal?
Yeah, he did heal.
He said he was still hurting.
He's hurting, but he said he was healing.
Did he say he was healing?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
But, and then ultimately Norman gets cured and he turns back to normal, which, did he really...
I was going to say, how normal?
Did he... I mean, he's back to his Norman Osborn, and he's not the Green Goblin persona was completely gone out of him. Did he really deserve it? No.
No, but that doesn't mean he should be walking around still as Green Goblin. So I think this was probably the best punishment towards the Goblin himself.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And then Doctor Strange comes back, tries to basically the multiverse is basically in shambles. It's about to tear apart. More villains are trying to pop out. And then
not just villains, just universes in
general. And then Tom Holland suggests do the spell originally to wipe out everyone's memory of Peter Parker as Spider-Man, because it's revealed that the whole reason the multiverses are split apart, it's just because every of the people that know who Peter Parker Spider-Man is. So he's like, do the spell, make everyone forget about me. And we have the big thing where Tom Holland Spider-Man is basically saying goodbye. First of all, he says goodbye to the other Spider-Mans.
That was so cute.
So fucking cute. They have like their bromance, bro hugs and all that. And then we have one final goodbye to Ned and MJ. It's emotional. Because it's like we all know, like, especially, everyone is going to give off, make the situation of this is a very for those that don't know the comic, One More Day, this is a big reference to it. So in the comic One More Day, Spider-Man has a successful life, successful marriage with MJ, and then when Aunt May dies in the comic book, he's given the opportunity by Mephisto. He goes to Mephisto and asks to bring Aunt May back, and he does it with the cost of everyone that he cares about forgetting who he is. And this draws a lot of reference to that, and I don't know if people are going to like that per se, because not a lot of people like that comic, but they
what was the reason they didn't like that comic?
Because a lot of people believe that was not necessary to have all that happened, like make people forget. It's basically going back to square one with Peter Parker basically a loser and having a hard time coping with being Spider-Man and Peter Parker, whereas he had everything as everything figured out, and so basically they're saying fuck that, we're going back to square one.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't like that. I imagine a lot of people didn't like the references to that comic for whatever reason, but I feel like they didn't do it too badly for the reference here.
It did definitely make me sad that when I realized overall no one knows who Peter Parker is, period.
Especially when
he's a ghost at this point.
Especially when Tom Holland Spider-Man comes to terms with that, because originally he was just gonna like have them forget and then try to figure out some way to get them to remember again. But ultimately, he doesn't go through with it because he feels like they're better off without him.
Exactly.
And and that's true. It may that may be true. That may be not true. It's up it's up to the interpretation of the people viewing the movie.
Yeah.
And so the movie closes with Tom Holland Spider-Man coming up with his own Spider-Man suit, basically stripping any references to Tony Stark, comparing himself to Tony Stark. He's his own thing now.
He's starting from square one.
He's starting from square one, and God, that suit looked it was like only a few seconds that we get to see
That thing was shiny.
That thing was shiny, and it draws reference to how Spider-Man looked when he first debuted as a comic book character. It looked really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. That's the movie. Future Us here. As I was editing this review, I totally had to bring up the fact that we forgot to talk about the end credits scenes that happened during this movie, both of them. So here's us in the future as I'm editing this, discussing the end credits scene. So we had the mid credits scene with Tom Hardy's Venom. And for those that didn't watch Let There Be Carnage, the last Venom movie, or who you did, you'll know that, he got teleported along with the rest of the villains and other Spider-Man-related characters from Doctor Strange's spell. And we got that as an end credit scene in Venom Let There Be Carnage. And so we get a little more of a credit scene. We were both hoping that Tom Hardy's Venom would have more of a prominent role, but we didn't hold our breath that much.
I knew they were just going to give him a cameo scene. I knew in my heart they were, because just because they're finally putting him into the same universe as Spider-Man, that doesn't mean they're going to full on put him directly into the movie. Yeah. I had a feeling he was just going to be a cameo, and if nothing else, an end credit scene cameo.
Yeah, and that's what we ended up getting.
Yeah, the way the scene happened was after the first credits where it introduced everyone, the main characters, and the movie itself. It shows Tom Hardy's character Venom, or Eddie Brock, in a Mexican bar, and he and Venom are kind of going back and forth in a drunken stupor about
Yeah, they're talking. He's trying to catch up with what's going on in this universe, and trying to grasp the concept of aliens getting stones and stuff and other stuff, where he's talking about aliens don't want stones, they want brains. And then he gets teleported back to his universe, but not before we get a glimpse of the fact that part of the symbiote got left behind. Who knows what will happen there? We all know what's going to happen.
Not a big thing of symbiote, like a little smidget that was left on top of the bar table.
They're teasing hard that, we're probably going to, at some future point, get some sort of symbiote Spider-Man related storyline for future movies. And, we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully they don't fuck it up hard like they did Spider-Man 3.
What I question is, how come the symbiote a piece of him just came right off there?
No, it's like this.
Was that lazy writing?
Not only is lazy the writing, I guess they just want you to interpret it for yourself, how it happened. I don't know.
I got confused when I saw the symbiote, because all I saw was a black
goo.
Not even goo. I thought it was like a badge or something. I'm like, why is everyone freaking out over a tiny black thing of a badge? Yeah. And then I saw a move, and I'm like, okay, that's
yeah. So yeah, that's for they're already planning future events to be put into place, and we'll see what happens with it.
However, I don't think this means that Tom Hardy's gonna come back like
No, he's not coming back.
entirely into this
I think-
Spider-Man story.
I think they want to establish their own sort of Venom for Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So, and then we get basically a trailer for Multiverse of Madness because we get like short snippets of what we're gonna be experiencing with that movie coming out next year, and boy, it was
It was good.
something else. I mean, it's basically showing that, you know, all the events probably leaning on towards what happened in No Way Home, and also combining with the fact of, you know, with Wanda from kind of stepping into the story too, what happened with her in WandaVision. I don't know, like I hope Loki has some sort of, you know, something to happen in this movie because they didn't show anything involving him. It's mostly Wanda and Doctor Strange, you know, in this whole situation of, you know, the multiverse is out of the closet and they're trying to deal with it basically. And also we have like a returning villain from the first Doctor Strange movie. I think it was Mondo, or it was one of the characters from the previous Doctor Strange movie. He comes back to as the antagonist. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were teasing that he was gonna come back, but I didn't think they would take this long to like bring him back. You know, we had like multiple movies, and it took a while for another Doctor Strange movie to come about. And yeah, we basically got a big teaser for what we can expect in Multiverse of Madness. And yeah, that's really the big things here. Yeah, we're idiots. We were just like so like into what we were talking about that we just forgot to mention them.
Keep in mind, when we made this review, it was 11 o'clock.
Yeah, we were
fucking
we were
half
tired,
half excited. Even after we did our review, we still couldn't fall back asleep.
Yeah,
but everything that happened.
But here's the little edit to fix the mistake. Okay, let's resume with the video. Bye, guys. And again, we had a blast from start to finish. There was never a dull moment.
There wasn't. It was all intriguing, all like
funny as all hell at points.
It grabbed you. What was your favorite scene? What was your overall favorite scene in this movie?
So there's this one scene, again, going back to the conflict on the Statue of Liberty, when they're just, you know, all the Spider-Mans are talking to each other. Especially, like, you have Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland Spider-Man very confused about how Tobey Maguire's web shooting works because, you know, Tobey Maguire's web is organic, whereas, you know, Andrew and Tom, they have web shooters, and they
are completely jealous.
They are completely jealous and confused at the same time, and it's just, you know, they're just like patting each other on the back, you know, praising each other, talking about all the shit they went through. It's a nice touching moment, not just between actors that have played Spider-Man in the past, but overall just as characters as Spider-Man, seeing the differences between all three of them.
I definitely picked up on that as well, that they weren't just talking, even though it was in the movie, I feel like just there were little hints of them coming out of their character as the actors themselves and just saying, hey, you're a great Spider-Man. No, you're a great Spider-Man. No, you're a great Spider-Man.
That was definitely my favorite scene.
It was so wholesome, and I feel like it was almost a way of Tobey Maguire telling these two, hey, you guys are doing great. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like there was the daddy, the son, and there was the grandson.
Yep.
And
it's like
it was so nicely done. It was so nicely written.
It's definitely gonna hit people's nostalgia for previous movies.
It hit mine right in the
definitely for Tobey Maguire, how people feel towards Andrew Garfield. That's up to them. I think there is some Andrew Garfield fans out there. I'm definitely I liked him as Spider-Man. Peter Parker,
he's okay.
And whereas I always say, like, you know, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are the yin-yang Spider-Man edition. Whereas, you know, Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker. He established, you know, the very, like, struggle of dual personalities, like trying to be Spider-Man, trying to be Peter Parker. Mm-hmm. Whereas his Spider-Man, though, was lacking in the quips and the jokes and the overall fun of what Spider-Man is. Andrew Garfield is the complete opposite. Spider-Man, he's the greatest quippy Spider-Man ever. He gets what Spider-Man is as a superhero.
Just the lamest Peter Parker ever because
he was such a dopey Peter Parker.
No, I don't think he was a dopey Peter Parker. He was just, to me, was not Peter Parker.
He was awkward at times.
But to me, he was not the Peter Parker I knew as a kid because the Peter Parker I knew as a kid was literally a teenager. I didn't care that he was older gentleman.
Mid-20s.
That doesn't matter anymore. We grew up with that already. But what I didn't like is that he didn't seem like the Peter Parker type. He wasn't scrawny. He wasn't, shorter than everyone.
They were trying to make him a hipster.
They made him look like a hipster.
Yeah,
they did
very much
basically.
so.
100% made him look like a hipster. He didn't have. There wasn't a reason to bully his ass. He looked like he could be friends with freaking Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
Which he did eventually.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I agree. As far as Tobey Maguire, I personally liked his Spider-Man. Like I told you in the movies when we were watching the movie, he wasn't as like comebacky or quippy as Spider-Man usually is. Like he's not blasting jokes while fighting. I mean, I did appreciate though that they gave him a few quips here and there.
Yeah.
It almost feels like he gave each of his bad guys one quip.
Yeah. He was able to be way more quippy and more comical in this movie than he ever was in the original.
Like I feel like his Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, was more of already a mature Spider-Man. It's what it felt like, and
it definitely in this movie too. Especially he looked like he had been doing it for a while now. Same with it seemed to with Andrew too.
Yeah, to bring you guys up to speed, when MJ and Ned brought back these Spider-Men, which is Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, it basically left off. They brought them back to a time where in their presence,
all the shit they've been through, they've already
has happened.
Been
Yes,
yeah.
Andrew Garfield already moved on. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man already moved on. They already have a future. They have their own futures, their own lives.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to see them like literally act like older men. Like that scene. There was a scene where they were on the Empire State Building waiting for the bad guys, and
they're on the Statue of Liberty, not the Empire State Building.
Fuck. Some part in fucking New York.
Yeah.
They were stretching. They were doing old men stretching, trying to help each other, and they're like, "Oh, my back," and I'm like, "Oh, fuck, that's right." Spider-Man went through a lot of bullshit with his back.
Yeah.
And then Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man's trying to grab him, and they're like, "All right, hold still," and trying to help him.
That whole thing with my back thing was also a reference to the previous movie with that joke.
Yeah, he's had a lot of bullshit happen to his back, unfortunately, and that led up with him over the years.
I'm surprised they didn't make any jokes to him dancing in the third movie.
Third movie did not happen.
I'm agreeing, but
third movie.
Here's the thing:
didn't happen.
if Into the Spider-Verse can make the joke, they could have made the joke.
Yeah, but who wants the joke anymore?
I mean, it was funny in Into the Spider-Verse.
But we don't want that joke anymore. We've had enough of the joke.
But yeah, so this movie is a 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
Like we said in our rating to the non-spoiler section, and yeah. We cannot recommend go seeing this movie enough. Assuming I'm pretty sure by now tickets are not hard to get. They were hard in the beginning with pre-sales because fucking resellers are assholes. I hope they lose a lot of money trying to buy all those tickets.
Probably.
They probably will, but I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be hard once now this movie's open to get more tickets to buy. But yeah, if you can't get a ticket, go fucking see this movie. You will not be fucking disappointed.
Stanley would be proud.
Stan, man.
He would be proud.
Fucking rest in peace.
I bet you he would have cried if he saw this movie.
Most definitely. Definitely, I definitely wish we could have got one more cameo with him.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's it. Go see the movie, and thank you all for watching this. This is by far my longest review ever.
It's worth it though.
There was a lot to talk about, but it's worth it in the end.
2 hours and 30 minutes. Just remember that.
Yeah, 2 hours and 30 minutes of this movie that you had to sit through.
But it was worth it.
Definitely worth it. Thank you all for watching. I'm Dreamkiller, and this is Christina.
Hi.
Nerds keep on rocking.